Ahead of Parliament's return next week, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, has given a speech in the gardens of 10 Downing Street, addressing the people he met on the election campaign. Many of them were invited into the garden for his speech. He told them he had promised that his government would serve, and it is keeping with the plan. He proudly told them his Labour government has done more in 7 weeks than the last government did in 7 years.
Serve people like you, apprentices, teachers, nurses, small business owners, firefighters, those serving our community and our country every day. I promised that we would get a grip on the problems that we face and that we would be judged by our actions, not by our words. We've done more in 7 weeks than the last government did in 7 years. And these are just the first steps towards the change that people voted for, the change that I'm determined to deliver.
Now, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has been welcomed to China on his first visit. As the two countries try to stabilize relations, he will hold talks with Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Yi have met 4 times over 16 months in Vienna, Malta, Washington, and Bangkok. Their last meeting in January was shortly after a high-stakes summit between President Xi Jinping and Joe Biden that sought to reset frosty ties. This week's talks, scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday, signal that China is still a priority for the Biden administration, even as the retiring president enters his final months in office. Now, in what would be the first known instance of such a direct violation, Japan has accused a Chinese spy plane of breaching its airspace. Japan scrambled fighter jets after a Hainan surveillance plane violated the territorial airspace of Danjo Island for about 2 minutes on Monday. Japan's chief cabinet secretary called the breach utterly unacceptable and summoned a Chinese embassy official in Tokyo in protest. The incident comes as tensions rise in the region, where China competes for influence against the U.S. and its allies, including Japan. Now, police say an American man has died in South Iceland after ice collapsed on him while he was on a group tour to a glacier. A female tourist was injured, but she was taken to hospital and her life is not in danger. The man and woman were a couple and his wife is also a U.S. citizen. Rescuers spent most of the day searching, but called off the operation on Monday after they cleared the ice and found no one. And back here in Nigeria, former Secretary General of the Commonwealth and Chairman of the Patriot has inaugurated a National Advocacy Committee for the actualization of a new democratic people's constitution for the country. Emeka Anyaoku says the exercise will help achieve a truly federal constitution to resolve the various challenges that the country is faced with.
In 1914, from the Nigeria Order in Council being the first constitution by the British colonial to the 1999 constitution which established the Fourth Republic, the clamor for a new democratic people's constitution to address the pressing challenges of Nigeria is on the rise. Here, the Patriot is inaugurating a 17-man National Advocacy Committee to begin the process of a new constitution where inputs from key stakeholders will be accommodated to address the current problems of the nation.
The new constitution that the peoples of this country will decide to have will provide a basis for addressing these problems. The problems of corruption, the problem of mismanagement of national resources.
Chairman of the Patriot and former Commonwealth Secretary General says the problem of the country is not necessarily leadership, but constitutional and must be addressed.
Even if you asked Angel Gabriel or Malaika Jibril to govern Nigeria with the present constitution, they will not succeed because of the nature of the constitution.
He adds that a draft of the federal constitution is expected to be created and will be subjected to a referendum.
The draft new constitution should be subjected to a referendum, a national referendum. That's the second part of the request which the patriots have advised the president to include in his executive bill to the National Assembly.
The task of the committee, headed by Professor of Strategy and Development Anthony Killer, is to mobilize, sensitize the general public and come up with relevant proposals and recommendations from the critical stakeholders for the new Democratic People's Constitution. Ola Awakon, TVC News, Lagos.
Nations Football Federation has announced the appointment of Bruno Labbadia as head coach of the Super Eagles. General Secretary of the NFF, Mohamed Sanusi, mentioned that the Executive Committee approved the recommendation of its Technical and Development Subcommittee to appoint Mr. Labbadia with immediate effect. Bruno Labbadia has coached several clubs, including Hertha Berlin and VfB Stuttgart. He is the sixth German to lead the Super Eagles. And finally, on World Now, we are ending the news on a sad note. U.S. singer Mariah Carey has said in a statement that her mother, Patricia, and sister, Alison, died on the same day over the weekend. The singer says her heart is broken. The Grammy-winning singer adds that she felt blessed to have spent time with her mother in the week before her death and asked for privacy. She gave no further details about the cause of the deaths of both women. Her mother, Patricia, who was 87, was a former opera singer and vocal coach of Irish-American descent. Well, that is World Now.